Welcome to Decision Point. Is there help for teens and women who find themselves unexpectedly pregnant? And are Christian help centers manipulative or actually helpful and supportive in their tactics? Angel Wicker, who is Executive Director of the Pregnancy Help Center in El Paso, is here to help us to understand these vital issues a little bit better. Welcome, Angel.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, it's wonderful to have you here. And how long has the Pregnancy Help Center been in existence?
Actually, we're celebrating our 32nd year this year. We started in 1981.
So it's been quite a while.
Yeah.
And you've been the Executive Director for how long?
I've been the Executive Director for 8 years. I started as a volunteer 21 years ago, and I used to think, gosh, I wish I could be here every day. So be careful what you wish for.
Absolutely, yeah, right.
But it really is my passion and a tremendous blessing to serve there.
So what is it in your life that made you so passionate about this ministry?
Actually, it was through my own crisis pregnancy back years ago that the executive director had come to speak at the church that I was attending at the time and said that they needed some volunteers. And if you've ever been through a crisis pregnancy or something like that, you may be able to give somebody else hope through the same hope that you've received. And so that's what got everything started. And that's what we do, is give others hope.
Yes. In terms of your own crisis pregnancy, was that something that you experienced as a teen, and were you a Christian at the time also?
I was not a Christian. I was in my early 20s, and it was after that a month before my baby was born, I started going to church and I gave my life to the Lord, and so I had experienced who Jesus was and that he could help me in my time of trouble, and he certainly did do that.
Right. Well, that's wonderful that you have that ministry and that testimony, which certainly makes you a wonderful witness to what other women are going through. Do you find that the church has a different attitude these days about crisis pregnancy than perhaps what used to happen a long time ago, which may have been less supportive?
I wish I could answer that in a more positive way, but I think the church has become very apathetic to the issue as a whole. Not all churches, of course, but if we had every church, Bible-believing church in El Paso supporting us, we wouldn't have any financial need, really, because we would be able to sustain the ministry easily. But the church, unfortunately, a lot of pastors that I talk to not everybody's as supportive as they used to be.
And what do you think why do you think that's happened?
I really don't know. I mean, we just live in a day and time with a lot of tolerance and difficulty by some pastors just to address those hard-hitting issues like abortion.
Yeah, right. What is the primary mission of the Pregnancy Help Center, and I guess the Fatherhood Help Center also? You do both mothers and fathers?
Right, is to help people that are dealing with an unplanned pregnancy spiritually, emotionally, and just to come alongside them and to help to support them during their difficult times.
Why would someone contact you?
They would contact us because they would want a different field than like a medical clinic that may be a sterile, cold type of environment. Our clients feel loved, and because we love them well. And so advertising is very expensive these days, and we don't do a lot of advertising, but what our clients do is they'll go and tell their friends that are dealing with an unplanned pregnancy to come and see us. And so a lot of our clients come and see us through word of mouth.
Word of mouth. So if some of our viewers have come across a situation like that, they can actually refer them to your center and they're going to get help then, right? And they have the website up as well. So that's something that people can be aware of out there, just some more eyes and ears to provide that support for you guys and the ministry and what you're doing. How are you different from Planned Parenthood?
How are we different? Well, we are a life-affirming organization, and so we never encourage or promote abortion. We do educate on it as you know, people come in and they look at it as an option. We do talk to them about the risk and injury information. And we also talk to them about things like like adoption, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of our clients that come in that say if they have a negative pregnancy test, they breathe a sigh of relief and then they walk out and they continue in the same lifestyle that brought them in. So one of our missions is to educate them as well about the dangers of premarital sex, mm-hmm. and just talk to them about the different STIs and what that can do to their health.
Do you provide any counseling around birth control and that kind of thing, or is that not part of your mission?
That's not part of our mission. Usually if somebody comes in and they're looking for a method of birth control, if they are not married, we always promote abstinence. But if they are married, we let them know that their doctor is the best person to talk to about that, because we don't have their health history or anything like that, and we certainly mm-hmm. don't want to give them wrong information. So we let our clients know we are not a medical facility, and the best person to ask is their medical provider.
So if they go to Planned Parenthood, then they will encourage them to have an abortion, or why is Planned Parenthood so invested in, they really do promote abortion as a good alternative. So right. why do you think they're so invested in that?
Because it's a huge, huge money-making industry. I mean, the abortion industry is huge money-making
really?
Industry. Huge.
How do they make money from abortions?
Because abortions are not inexpensive, and the way that it's promoted, they know that they're going to get lots of women in there. They start, actually, a friend of mine, Carol Everett, who used to run 2 abortion clinics in Dallas, she educated me early on in their tactics. And they actually start in kindergarten educating the students about, for example, they'll say, what is your genitalia called? And so the kids will say, you know, a silly little name that maybe their parents call it, and they'll say, oh, mommy and daddy don't know, you know, that's not the right term. The right term is, you know, and then they'll use the proper terms. But so they start them young, trying to get their trust, trying to get their involvement with them, and then promote that all the way through the school age years. Thankfully, Planned Parenthood was closed in El Paso a few years ago, and for a time we were in their office.
You know, that's ironic.
Yes, it is. And I remember when I went in and I knew that they were going to close, I had some inside information, and I said, you know, can I just take a look around and just see if this is a good facility for us? And the girl said, oh, we're not going to close. And I said, yes, you are. And so, so that was really interesting. And we moved in there for about 2.5 years, and we were very, very busy at that time, just intercepting people that may be looking for abortion, but finding us. Now, we never deceive. So if somebody were to call and they'd say, are you Planned Parenthood? Of course, we would never deceive. We are a non-coercive, non-judgmental, and non-political organization.
Why did Planned Parenthood close, or why did, and now a number of them are actually going to be closing in Texas, right?
Right.
And because, why, generally?
Well, in El Paso, the reason why they closed was misappropriation of funds. But the reason why many of the others are closing are due to the new laws that have recently passed.
What do you think about those new laws? Do you think they're helpful, appropriate, right?
I do all of those things, all of those things, all of the above, because I believe with the new laws, it actually helps women. Because before there really wasn't much regulation on what was required, and so a lot of the abortion clinics were not medically even safe for women. And so with these new laws, it is actually very much pro-woman, because they're looking out for her best interest and her health. Many of the clinics didn't even have to meet up to standards as far as sterility. And many of them didn't even have ambulatory care. And so if there was an emergency, which unfortunately oftentimes there is, then they didn't even have ambulatory care or hospital privileges.
Able to get them into the hospital.
Right. And so actually these laws are great in helping to protect women, and thankfully the way that it all worked out, they also had to end up closing. One of the abortion clinics actually on Friday, this past Friday, is non-operational. So we're really excited about that.
Yeah, that's in terms of the new healthcare law. How does that pay for abortion or require payment for abortion? Do you know?
I believe it forces a lot of employers to provide that as a part of their insurance plan. And I know that there's a lot of controversy, for example, like with Hobby Lobby, they've taken it to court because they don't want to provide that to their employees. And so there's a lot of controversy surrounding that, understandably so.
Yeah, right. So what has happened to the whole issue of abortion these days? Because I teach at El Paso Community College, and there are a number of my students who are having babies, and they're not married, and there doesn't seem to be any issue or problem with that. And then there are a number of young men who are fathers, and they're okay with that, and it just seems like the whole having a child in an unmarried situation is much more acceptable. Are you seeing that?
I am, Holly. Unfortunately I am, and I think a lot of it has to do with the media. You know, there's reality shows now that glamorize teen pregnancy, and there's music out there that also glamorizes it, and a lot of the stars that the young people look up to as role models are also doing the same thing. So they don't see anything wrong with it, and it all goes back to biblical principles, and it does have consequences that comes with it.
So is abortion actually on the decline in the nation, or stable, or is it still rising, the incidence of abortion?
That's a difficult question to answer, just because abortion is not reportable. And so the abortion clinics do not have to report, so it's difficult.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
I wish I was.
Wow, I had no idea.
There's really not accurate information out there, but in doing this for 21 years, I really haven't seen that much of a decline.
So experientially, you would say that it's not declining, and so basically, because of sexual activity, which is on the rise and totally acceptable, we're seeing a lot of people going ahead and having the children, and we're seeing a lot of people still having abortions.
Right.
It's both.
Right. And I think with the advent of RU486, which is the abortion pill,
oh, right. Yeah,
that is also not reportable, and so it still produces an abortion. It still has the end result of a dead baby and a wounded woman. And so a lot of the young people that I speak to, a lot of the young women, they don't look at it because it's not in their mind as invasive as a surgical abortion. Sure. So they really don't look at it as being as harmful, but it is.
Yeah.
It is.
How does that particular drug work? How does that create an abortion?
Well, there's a series of pills that the girl has to take. She goes in and then she has to go in for a follow-up and take another series of pills. Unfortunately, what happens is she's oftentimes forced to go home after the contractions are becoming stronger, and delivers the baby, unfortunately, into the toilet oftentimes. And then she's having to deal with, what does she do now? And so I've counseled many, many women that have taken RU486 and have explained to me the pain that they went through, and it's really no less than a surgical abortion.
Up to what time frame are they taking that pill?
Well, actually the time frame that they're supposed to use is not being adhered to. So I have seen girls taking it at even 14, 16 weeks.
Oh, no.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
So
That's how many months? That's 3-4 months.
right.
Whoa.
Right.
That's bad.
As a matter of fact, I just got a call yesterday from a girl that was 16 weeks and was wanting to take the RU486, and I just explained to her that unfortunately what happens is RU486 oftentimes does not produce the termination of the pregnancy, and the abortionists know that. So what they're doing in essence is they're getting the money from the RU486, which is also very expensive, and then they know that that's not going to be successful in terminating the pregnancy, so then they tell the young lady, well, now you're going to have a surgical abortion.
So they get to double dip.
Double dip,
Yeah.
that's it.
Wow, that's horrible.
It really is, and just the emotional trauma, and that's not uncommon at all. As a
Right.
matter of fact, it happens far too often.
So it's actually to their advantage to prescribe that first and then watch the young woman go through that and then have to get to do the surgical abortion as well.
Right.
I mean, and they are playing those kind of games with
Right.
people's lives.
And RU486 also does cause a woman to hemorrhage profusely. And so there have been deaths associated with RU486 from the women that have taken it.
So is it doctors who are prescribing this, or is it Planned Parenthood abortion clinics? Who's prescribing this?
both. Both.
And they will do it.
Right. Right.
Wow, that's incredible.
It really is.
Really amazing. So you have a project that you are currently implementing, which is a mobile medical unit. You want
Yes.
to tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, I
Why
would
do you want
love
to do that?
I am so excited about it. Actually, it all started with a conference that I went to. A lot of pregnancy centers have already started going mobile. If you drive around, even El Paso, but more so in places like Austin and such, everything is going mobile these days.
From dog grooming
Right.
to lunch vans and the
Right.
rest of it. Yeah.
Right.
Car cleaning.
Almost everything you can think of is
Yeah,
going mobile
that's
these
true.
days.
That's true.
And they know that it's because you're able to reach more people, a
Right.
broader audience.
Right, yeah.
And so by going mobile, we will be able to serve more women, save more lives, and share Jesus with more people than what we ever have before, and that's incredibly exciting. I just spoke to my friend who's in Nashville, Tennessee. She's the director of a pregnancy center there, and she said, you know, Angel, we have been able, since we've gone mobile, to reach 103% more
Wow.
abortion-determined women than what we are even in our brick and mortar building.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
incredible.
it
So
really
it's,
is.
it's really the way to go.
It really is. I mean, they're already doing it in places like San Antonio, Austin, Dallas, Colorado, California. You know, I mean, it's just really, they see the fruit from it, and to be able to reach more abortion-determined women is part of. I mean, that is our mission.
right.
You know, so.
So how do those mobile units work? Where do they go park out in front of high schools? I mean, what do they do?
you park in a variety of places like parks and malls and close to universities, because
Right.
the college age woman is going to be your most vulnerable, because she has a lot to lose. A lot of them also
Oh, that's true.
a
Right.
lot of them also have some sort of income, and so it's something that they entertain,
Yeah, right.
probably even more so than high school, or
Yeah,
or
right.
older women.
Right.
So college age is really what we want to focus on. And with with the El Paso community colleges, UTEP, even NMSU, I've got I'm friends with the directors in Las Cruces as well. And so to be able to go to them, fulfilling the Great Commission to go, and to be able to serve more women, it's very exciting.
So what would you do? You would have a particular place that you would park at a particular time, regularly at,
Right.
say, UTEP or EPCC?
Right, and you do want to make it regular, just so that way somebody that may be entertaining the idea, maybe is apprehensive about coming in the first time they see your mobile unit. And by the way, it is very neutrally branded. On the outside of it, it says ICU, and image clear ultrasound, and then it gives a phone number, and so they call that phone number, they schedule an appointment. If they're abortion determined, or I mean, they don't really necessarily have to schedule an
Yeah.
appointment. We'll see them right away.
Right, yeah.
So it's very exciting.
So what's in the van? I know we got pictures of the inside of what the van will look like that we're going to put up. So what kind of services do you provide in the van, and who's in there?
It's actually a recreational vehicle, and at
An
the
RV,
back,
yeah.
at the back of it is an exam room, and there's an exam table. There's a monitor on the wall across from the woman that's being examined. We will have a registered sonographer and adhere to all of the medical, regulations that we need to. And she'll be able to get an ultrasound right there on the spot. And in doing this for as long as I have, there are two things that have really brought the ministry full circle. And one of them is the advent of ultrasound, because it truly is a window to the womb. It breaks many women out of the denial that they're in.
Right.
And because it brings, the reality is right there,
Right.
and
Yeah.
so it's very exciting. And then it's also very private too. There's a door that closes in the exam room, and you're able to even counsel somebody towards the front of the unit. And there's another monitor there if you're doing counseling, want to show video or something like
Right.
that.
Yeah. So that's really quite a unit. Now you do have a ministry to fathers. What is that?
Fatherhood Help Services was something that the Lord laid on my heart many years ago. I grew up without a father and made a lot of wrong choices, looking for love in all the wrong places.
That's my story too.
And so that's, unfortunately, I hear that often. And so I know how important it is to have a father. Maybe I would have made different choices. I would hope that I would have. And it's God's perfect plan to have a mother and a father. But the number one reason why a woman chooses abortion is due to pressure from the father of the baby.
Really? Is that it?
That
I
is
didn't realize
the
that.
number one reason. Because if he shows support, oftentimes it'll change her mind. As a matter of fact, I counseled with a couple just a couple weeks ago, and I asked the young lady, I said, if he told you that he was going to help to support you, he's going to come alongside you and support you in this pregnancy, would you still consider abortion? And she goes, no, I wouldn't. And I hear that time and time again. And so with Fatherhood Help Services, it's men helping men. We have male mentors that talk with the young men. And so by having that, not only are we better able to address the issue of abortion, but also fatherlessness. Because if he can be a part of that child's life, it's just going to benefit the child as well.
Right. And a lot of men are really very reluctant to encourage that, because it means a lifetime commitment to raising a child, both financially and emotionally and spiritually and time and talent and the rest of it. It's all of a sudden becomes a huge commitment.
Right.
And they should have thought of that in advance, but often we don't, unfortunately. And so, well, that's an exciting thing. That's relatively unique to your center, is that right? I mean, I know.
It really is. Not a lot of pregnancy centers have it, although at the conferences that I go to, they're pushing for it more and more because they see the benefits to it. Like I said, we had a couple that came in just a couple weeks ago, and she was considering abortion and didn't know how far along she was. She had lost track of her menstrual periods and didn't really know how far she was, and so the young man was also being helped at the same time by one of our male mentors at Fatherhood Help Services. And so he was talking to him while we were talking to her. Come to find out, his dad wasn't around, and I see that oftentimes. What drives their decision to pull out their wallet and say, here, take care of it, is fear, because a lot of them haven't had their dad around.
Right.
And so they don't know what this looks like, you know, or if he was around, maybe he was abusive,
so good,
or an alcoholic or something like that. And so out of the fear of not knowing what a healthy father looks like, they decide to take the easy way out.
Right.
And if they talk with somebody from Fatherhood Help Services, they can encourage them and maybe help them to develop a plan. Even some of our male mentors have even helped some of these young men to find jobs, or to find out, what connections they have, and so on and so forth. So long story short, what ended up coming out of that story is we offered her an ultrasound. And I talked with the young man briefly, and he said, can you tell my girlfriend everything that I was just told? And I said, well, we did,
Mm-hmm.
And so when they came back together, they decided, okay, we will go for the ultrasound. Reluctantly, but we'll go. And so they went, and I ended up following up with the young lady that evening, and I said, so what happened? She goes, Angel, when he saw that baby on the screen, he cried like a baby. And she said, and I did not know, but I was 5 months along already.
Oh my gosh.
And so, I mean, it won't be long now that I'll be holding that baby, and I'm really excited about that. And so we don't just leave it at that. We also do follow up with them and help them to develop a plan and teach them parenting skills and stuff like that.
Well, that's such a beautiful story, and thank you for sharing with us, Angel. It's been a delight to have you here. And so do you think that this type of ministry is valuable, or just adding to the problems of society and poverty and ignorance? Let me know what you think on Facebook, Twitter, or kscetv.com/decisionpoint. And don't forget to tell those in need about the Crisis Pregnancy Help Center.